And for our final story for this edition of the Rolling Stone, this comes to us from usnews.com. Prominent mainline news source, media center. And this story takes us to Topeka, Kansas. Okay, and I want to emphasize that point because when people think of Topeka, Kansas, they think the Midwest. They think the heartland. They think, conservative values, for better or worse. They think patriotism, Americanism, flag waving, common sense, salt of the earth, grounded, farmers. Common sense people, small business owners. In fact, if you wanted a state that really encapsulated what a popular idea of America is, it would probably be Kansas. And that's especially true if you wanted a state that just encapsulated what people think of the Midwest. Okay, you might have a bit of a contest between Kansas and Nebraska, but Kansas also has Superman, okay? So it might kind of beat out Nebraska in that case. So I just wanted to emphasize that this is not in any huge metropolis. This isn't on the East Coast or the West Coast. This isn't in a very liberal city like Chicago, St. Louis, Kansas City, Dallas, Austin, Houston, Atlanta, etc. Okay, this is in the heartland of the Midwest. The so-called flyover country, right? The rural area, the center, the section of the country that's going to save the country, right? This is where this is taking place. Specifically at Washburn University. Washburn University, okay, has taken down 2 statues that stood outside the university's law school for 2 decades. And if the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up and you're thinking, oh boy, I bet those statues were founding fathers, you would be 100% correct. Give yourself a pat on the back. The statues in question were Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin. Now, given the environment that we live in now, it is unfortunately very easy to see why the statue of Jefferson would be taken down. Slave owner, plantation owner, and of course, everyone's favorite, a huge hypocrite. How could the man who wrote the Declaration of Independence also be a slave owner? And did you see all the racist things he said about blacks in his notes on the state of Virginia? Everything must come down. Take down every single monument, memorial, and reminder of Thomas Jefferson. He is canceled from the culture. But Benjamin Franklin? Benjamin Franklin did not own a plantation. The furthest south Benjamin Franklin went, I believe, is Philadelphia. He was originally an inhabitant of Boston. That's where he was born. But then when he was a teenager, if I'm remembering his autobiography correctly, he moved to Philadelphia, which was the cosmopolitan center of the American colonies of the 18th century, even more so than New York in a lot of ways. And if I'm remembering his autobiography as well, I think Franklin might have owned a slave at one point early in his life after he married his wife. But then guess what? Later on in his life, Benjamin Franklin founded the first anti-slavery society, not in Philadelphia, not in Pennsylvania, not even in the British colonies, but in North America. Benjamin Franklin founded the first anti-slavery society in North America. But it doesn't matter. His statue was taken down, along with Thomas Jefferson. Now, there is absolutely no difference between a slave owner from the 18th century and a man who championed the freedom of slavery, the freedom of slaves in the 18th century. It doesn't matter. They were both white, cis, straight males in the 18th century. Therefore, they were both racists. Doesn't matter. And then, buttressing what I just said, is this excuse that was given by President Jerry Farley. Okay, he's the president of Washburn University. President Farley said it was the donors' decision to have the statues returned. They didn't want the statues to become a source of embarrassment, so they asked that they be returned. Our founding fathers now are a source of embarrassment. As you know, gang, I have made numerous videos about the erasure of history. One of the very first videos I did was about Austin, Texas, creating a commission to decide if street names had to be re-Christian because, should we really have Dixie Street? Confederate Boulevard, that's a little dicey. I've made videos about the 1619 Project, videos about the removal of statues, okay? So you know where I stand on the removal of statues. And I've talked before about how this is 1984 style rewriting of history. Out of sight, out of mind. But there is something else going on here. This is nothing more than a transcendental transplant that is taking place. Okay? Think what you want about the founding fathers personally. And, some of them, not all of them, were angels. Okay? Many of them, all of them were men, which means that they had virtues and vices, strengths and weaknesses like we all do. Some just had fewer faults, vices, and weaknesses than others. George Washington, for example, is still a paragon of virtue and still the indispensable man. John Adams had many faults, but he was brilliant, passionate, and genuinely strived to improve himself. And, he's one of my personal favorites of the founding fathers, so, I have to put in a good word for him. Others, on the other hand, like Gouverneur Morris, oh gosh, you talk about a ladies' man. He was writing in his diary about the conquests of the ladies that he made in his personal carriage when he was in Paris, okay? Not exactly someone that you would send your daughter with, okay, if you knew anything about him. Although, today, who knows? If the daughter was 14 years old and Gouverneur Morris started making the moves on him, would he be canceled because he was another Harvey Weinstein? Or would he be praised because now we're on the path to tolerating, legalizing, and normalizing pedophilia? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments, okay? So, whatever you think about the Founding Fathers, you cannot escape from the fact that they created the soul of the United States. They did forge this country. Now, unlike what some people would say, okay, in academia and on the right, they did not create something wholly and completely new. No. They relied very much on the past. The classical past of Athens, Sparta, and also even more so Rome, Republican Rome, the Whig theory of history and the Whigs of England, and even English history going all the way back to the ancient Saxons. Okay? Thomas Jefferson was one who did that, and so was John Adams. They relied on Christianity. They relied on the moderate Enlightenment of Scotland, the Scottish moderate, reasonable Enlightenment. They used all of these different influences to create the United States and to give it its soul, as it were. Okay, to form a country that suited the temperament of the people, and which also was going to strive for the true, the good, and the beautiful. Because, again, universal principles going all the way back to Plato, Aristotle, Cicero, Sidney, Harrington, and Locke, okay, to mash up Jefferson and Adams together. By destroying, therefore, all memory of the Founding Fathers, and not even making any distinction between a slave owner like Jefferson and a man who argued for the emancipation, a man who argued and worked for the emancipation of slaves like Benjamin Franklin, shows that this is not simply about erasing history. This is not about rewriting history. This is about something even more fundamental. This is about displacing the soul of the United States in order to replace it with something else. Something that is going to be provided by Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Hollywood, Amazon, and the rest of our cultural masters, okay? That's what this really shows. And there are practical implications for all this. I mentioned in my last video when I was talking about Amazon that we are in an unofficial Cold War with China. Now, that Cold War might never become an actual hot war, thanks to the Chinese owning most of the world already. But if it ever did, think about this. Would we actually be able to defeat them? Say what you want about the Red Chinese, but they actually have national and cultural pride. They are proud to be Chinese. They are, you almost might say, required to be proud to be Chinese and to be a part of Chinese culture. Rewritten, of course, by the Maoists, but that's beside the point right now. The point is they love their country. They're proud of it. They're willing to fight for it. They're willing to die for it. Are we willing to do that? Because here again, like I said in my regular On the Stone video for this week that was unfortunately posted yesterday, but where we were talking about the Constitution, if you remove the soul from something, then you effectively kill it. Yeah, it may still walk around a little bit. It may still move and have motion and everything, but we call that a zombie. It's not going to be able to defend itself. It's not going to be able to actually fight. It's not actually going to be able to advance itself. That is what is happening right now. And the fact that this happened, again, in Topeka, in the heartland of the United States, should send huge warning signs to everyone. Everyone should be hearing danger, 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 Will Robinson, in his head. Because for too long, we have acted under the assumption that, oh my gosh, if we just keep the heartland, if we keep the rural areas, you know what, everything is going to be fine. Well, now the war has come there. And we are going to see now what happens next. But I have been talking for too long as usual, gang, so I'm wrapping everything up here. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay free, and I will chat at you soon. Ciao.